Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Pesha knows it already. Good evening, Deltona residents.
Good evening.
Okay, fair enough. As you know, this is somewhat of a special town hall. It's meant for those that want to start a business, own a business, or have information on how great it was to start a business here in Deltona, right? As always, the purpose is to listen to everybody's concerns, suggestions, and hopefully we can come up with some solution and ideas. So I will do very little talking, I promise. And I'll start off with Mr. Pesha. Now, folks, this doesn't only have to be like a business, it can be nonprofit. If you are a Deltona resident and have a business elsewhere, that also, I also want to hear from you because I want to know why you don't have it in Deltona. So.
Great, I stand at this side of the room thinking I'd be the last one. Okay. First of all, Mayor, I want to thank you. Attended almost every one of your town halls. But tonight I'm not a business owner. In fact, I'm retired, I don't even work. But I got the opportunity to be here for the last couple of years, and my observations and my perceptions is what I'm going to offer tonight. What I've seen is Amazon made application and opened the doors within 6 months. I mean, it was quickly done. Dollar stores pop up all over the place, seem to have no trouble. Nice national company, big business. Mom and pop store. You take over an existing building. Moving into a vacant building that's been vacant, an eyesore, takes forever and a day to open their doors. They seem to run into every kind of problem you can think of. This is things I've observed myself from being around here, people I've talked to, and stuff like that. My opinion, based on what I've seen, Deltona loves big corporations, but does not seem to appreciate small business. And for what I understand, small business accounts for 80% of the jobs in this country. It's the backbone. I love my bedroom community. But this city is big enough that we have room for plenty of mom and pop stores all over. I like a restaurant like the Cocky Rooster. Why can't we have more of those? I mean, I like a nice little boutique. We got vacant buildings all over this town. But why can't we get them to move into there? Those are my comments.
So before we go on, I want to do this a little bit different, right? Because we have plenty of time. So to touch on Mr. Pesha's point, and I can share the mic both ways, right? I like to hear everybody's ideas or opinions. For this, if you raise your hand, what do you think is affecting that? There's some, we have some business owners here, obviously, and residents that want to see more businesses, not to destroy some of our land, but in some of these empty lots. What are your ideas? What are your thoughts? Why this keeps happening? Because obviously we have people that are watching these town halls, and they're paying attention because I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I want to hear from you guys. Hopefully, when we go down the line, if we can get just one or two people to raise their hands and interact as to why you think, Mr. Pesha, like he said, a lot of big corporations. In my opinion, it's not really, I think it's more dollar stores and fast food joints, right? But I'd like to hear from one or two of you. Who wants to?
Now speak up. I don't think I need a mic.
You sure?
Sure. We own a business called Great Hazy Tours. It's a food and wine tour business. We're residents of Deltona for 41 years. Obviously, we cannot conduct that business in Deltona. Why? Deltona doesn't have a downtown. Deltona doesn't have any place that's really a sit-down restaurant unless it's a sports bar. So we do our business in DeLand. That's very sad. To your point, dollar stores, Larry has a joke. I'm driving down the road and throwing out seeds for dollar stores, and they'll sprout in a week. It almost feels that way. Same thing with Riley Auto Parts. We have met with corporations like Darden Restaurants, who I used to be in advertising, they were my account. Why can't we have a Red Lobster? Why can't we have a Seasons 52? We're the biggest city in Volusia. You're a bedroom community. You don't have a lunch crowd. We can't work with that population. Now with Halifax coming in, you're gonna have some of that, but what do we have? A Burger King, a Walla?
McDonald's.
That was my child's first word. God forbid. Not, well, besides Mama and Dad, McDonald's. And there was one in Four Towns, which is now Orange City. No, if you've not been here for a while, you don't know that it was called Four Towns then. The problem is, our logo has been Deltona's open for business. Deltona is not open for business. Since I live here, my business operating license has to come from here because we don't have a brick and mortar into land. You would not believe what I had to do. I had to have the fire department come and inspect my home. Pay for 2 industrial strength fire extinguishers because it's a 2-story house. I never have a client in my home. Why is that necessary? Some of our laws make absolutely no sense at all. So a little bit of input there. It's your vision for a downtown. We would have our business there in a second, but there is no downtown. I won't say no, but there's a strong lack of community. I lived in California, and there was a town called Thousand Oaks. Very ritzy, but a bedroom community like we are. Not ritzy, we're not ritzy, but a bedroom community where everybody lived there and went to work elsewhere. They're now really, really hurting, unless we can bring industry in, and not just the Amazons, and not just, God forbid, another dollar store or another Riley's Auto Parts, but real businesses that can come in here and make a difference and make a community. That's what we need.
Thank you, Ms. French.
I think part of the problem is outdated marketing data, because some of the times when we did talk to some of the corporations about why they weren't coming here, they were using data that was almost 15, sometimes 20 years old on economic trends and the population, the earnings and so forth for our area. That's changed, and especially with the advent of some of these large package industries like Amazon, that information needs to be updated. And a lot of these big mover shaker kind of corporations that do these big restaurants and so forth, they plan these things out in advance. So unless they're getting accurate data to plan their projection for a project, like we do a lot of the stuff right here within the city, they're not going to do it because their information is giving them the wrong conclusion or the wrong information for what they want. That information has got to get more updated.
Do you think part of the problem is, because I was speaking to they're called headhunters for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because they're not hunting for people, but they keep talking about this dot that they drop when they put Deltona. And I've actually seen the map, and when it drops that dot or the pin, it's not almost centered in Deltona. It's almost out by what is kind of considered Deltona Lakes, right? Do you think that's part of the problem? Because for some reason, when it drops on or Deltona Farm, sorry, when it drops in that area, the amount of people there is so much less than when you drop that pin right in the middle or the center of Deltona.
We thought the census would change things because it did update, but for some reason,
It doesn't translate.
trickle down, doesn't translate, whatever. The corporations that I worked my entire career with still aren't getting the message that we're the largest population in Volusia County. We've got land, we've got buildings that need to be rehabilitated, we've got, but they're saying, well, you're not our market.
Again, you're talking to established businesses, garden restaurants and stuff like that. Why can't we bring in mom and pops? Take a look at downtown Deland. A lot of those are startups, single, entity businesses,
Oh,
not
yeah.
corporate, stuff.
We work in downtown DeLand, and believe me, a lot of those downtown DeLand businesses are not what they appear. There are some hardship cases there. So the struggle of mom and pops, we're a mom and pop. It's us, that's it.
There's a lot of hoops to jump through
Yeah.
to make the operation successful.
And
and
Deltona
work.
makes the hoops much more difficult than DeLand, which is why we're doing business in DeLand.
Thank you. Do you want to say something?
I'm just here to get information, to learn more things. At every meeting, there's something else that can be learned. But to go back to hoops, I've been in Deltona a couple of decades, almost 3. Didn't plan on being there that long, but it just happened. But I think, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but there may be entities that think that, there's competition. If they're in competition with my business, I don't want them here. So I don't know if they had a say with all of these hoops. I'm kind of like ignorant in that fact, but could be that somebody that was in charge, had, I don't know, somebody may have had to make these rules that what these folks having to, to go through. So, I mean,
Some of that might be antiquated things that haven't been changed on our books, because originally when we were platted out, I think when Mackel planned all this out, they actually designated only certain types of supermarkets could be here and so forth for numbers of years. We had to go all the way to Orange City to go shopping because we didn't want to go to the only place that was a Winn-Dixie at the other end of Deltona, the first area. We were in the third area. Some of those things may not have been updated because I know there's crazy, wacky things that happen with a lot of the development zoning stuff. So perhaps a lot of those things that are regulations for businesses really have to be looked at to where they're, well, you're saying upgraded, that they're made more, I guess you could say, user-friendly to encourage businesses rather than deter them. I know one of the problems we saw firsthand with businesses in DeLand, and there may be people here who are trying to get into empty spaces here and put something in. They were making the mistake of not letting a prospective business owner know all of the upgrades because per se of regulations for if it was a restaurant or some kind of well, especially for a restaurant, for a building that had to be upgraded. And unfortunately, a lot of these people didn't have those things in their mind that, oh my God, I'm gonna have to upgrade all the plumbing. I'm gonna have to bring in all kinds of new electric. I've got to bring all these other things to meet these certain codes. And they don't understand that at the get-go. And it blows their entire marketing.
You're talking mom and pops, not
Yeah,
the corporate.
right.
Blows their budget,
Yeah, blows their
basically.
entire budget so that they may not even get the whole rehab done on the space and they never open. Or if they do open, if they don't have that amount of income to make it through that introductory phase where they're gonna establish clientele, you lose them, yeah. Now, I don't know how welcoming we are. I know, again, I think that motto is, we're open for business. I don't know how inviting that is to where it actually helps somebody. Like, you want to open up a business, all right, this is what's required. If you want to have a food-oriented businesses, you're required to do thus and thus and thus and so and so. So somebody who's trying to plan out a business knows, okay, I've got to have this kind of a budget. I know I need this much overhead and so forth and whatever, so they could be a success. And my God, we have so many cottage industry businesses here in Deltona because that's our demographic, a lot of us. That's how we're making an ends meet. You don't need any other regulations or ordinances that are going to make that even harder for you because it's just going to drive any kind of working industry underground rather than above ground to build a city like we want to.
but then why is it so easy for all these Family Dollars and dollar things to pop up? I mean, that's like,
Big
Are
corporations.
they like-
Oh,
Yeah.
what- I can answer that. We met with the, what is his title?
Development, planning, economic development.
Economic Development Director. Quote. And he basically told us the way our charter is written, that if you're zoned retail and you meet that, it doesn't matter whether you're a Lowe's, an Ace Hardware, a dollar store, a Riley's Auto Parts, whatever.
Hmm?
if you have that property with that designation, you can build whatever you damn well want to.
Right.
And that's why we have a dollar store every 3 miles.
And
But it's
that's why
kind of
they
funny, you
build
get
their
a
own-
private individual that wanna buy a piece of property, and for some reason, Deltona just cut his legs, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need this, you need that,
Right.
you know? And also, they should make, these landlords, with these old buildings, because that happened to us, we got this space, we had a remodel, we had a friend lady, that she spent almost 40 grand to redo her store, and that responsibility should be for the, what you call it? The landlords,
Well,
anything with major plumbing, major electricity, anything that
Well,
needs
if
to
you
be
have to do a
upgraded.
build out,
Yeah.
that's because like, I think everybody's familiar with Boston Coffee House in DeLand, and they have one in Deltona, and they have he was on Saxon Boulevard, and the old bank building and all of that, and he was
Across the
having-
interstate, yeah.
Yeah, across the interstate, yeah, or so Orange City, and he's a friend of ours, and he was having.
Nope.
He was having challenges with plumbing, it was an older building, they were just, he goes, you're the landlord, that's your job to redo this. I'm getting fined and cited for health violations that are my fault. So he, unfortunately or unfortunately, had the ability to move out, and that's why we have Boston Coffee in Deltona. Because he said, forget Orange City, you're being a jerk, I'm going to Deltona. So that was a good thing we did, yay, there on Saxon Boulevard, and we got in the Walmart Neighborhood Center, and we got into Red Bull, and we got into all that. But that was a big fight, because the senior citizen community behind that didn't want any of it. Now they're in love, they can walk over and get food, they can walk over to Walmart, they don't have to have,
I think that's another key thing that I've been looking at a lot of the misinformation. So, the mic is right there if you want to use it.
You want the mic? I don't know. You have to try it out as well.
I know that a lot of these issues are very much interconnected. The last couple of meetings that I've been to, I see bits and pieces of these things coming up from different perspectives. So, like last night, a gentleman talking about how DSC has, this vocational program, and a lot of these graduates are going to go elsewhere for work. It was something about 80% of the workforce in a company that he works with in Sanford lives in Deltona. So if there was a location in Deltona, those people wouldn't have to commute. And looking at companies that won't come here because we don't have a lunch crowd, well, a big part of that is if you work elsewhere, you're going to stay in that town if you're going to go out for lunch. Like, I work in Daytona. If I were going to go out to lunch somewhere, it would be within a few miles of the location that I work. And if I'm going to go out to dinner or pick something up on the way home, it may not necessarily be here if it's on the way from where I work. So the more jobs we can attract here, that's when we'll have the lunch crowd, that's when we'll have the dinner crowd, that's when we'll have these things. But we also need quality jobs. Like our Amazon, I say our Amazon, the Deltona Amazon was just on the news tonight for OSHA violations. Like, I literally, before coming here, saw it on the news, and they're like, an Amazon warehouse in Deltona. I'm like, oh, great, that's what we need to be known for, OSHA violations.
Yeah.
And, this monolithic company and this huge warehouse and these huge buildings that they're building here, what value are they bringing to our community? I mean, I'm not against them being here, but what value is there to the residents? Okay, yes, there are jobs. Are they quality jobs? I don't want to be known as the town where we have Amazon committing OSHA violations. We're not going to attract people here if we don't have quality jobs where people feel valued, where they think, oh, I can build a career, I can build a family, I can build here. So once we get that sorted out, that's when we'll have the lunch crowd. That's when, you know, this data can be generated for businesses to attract them here. If we can sort out all of the unnecessary hoops for the ma and pa's, but the thing is, like, all right, let's say I want to start a business, which, I mean, yeah, I would. It'd be nice. It would be very lovely. I like the idea of, you know, be your own boss, American dream, et cetera, et cetera. My area of expertise is education. So let's say I wanted to start a business as soon as possible, ASAP. Supplemental educational services or a micro school or something to that vein. How the heck am I going to pull that off? Okay. I have to save up capital, I have to save up my own money because starting a business is expensive, or get a business loan or something like that. I am not Dollar General, so I don't have the luxury of being able to say, it is too much work to renovate an existing building. I'm going to build my own where it can be to my exact specifications, and I can plunk it right in the middle of town, and it can look exactly like every other Dollar General in existence. Okay? That's the appeal for them, because they can do that. But if I want to start my own business, hey, I love to take an existing space, fix it up, what have you, but hey, educational services. Let's say there's some bad pipes, there's some bad wiring.
30 more seconds.
So all of these issues that can crop up, and it equals failure before I even start. So all of these issues are interconnected, and long story short, there are a few key things that have to happen first before any of the other things can be taken care of, right?
Thank you. Albert?
I'm just here to observe tonight.
Okay.
I'm just a small one-person business at home, home-based. So I'm just here to listen to some of the other issues here that I haven't had to deal with.
All right.
I think it's all.
Push the button, no.
Now it's on. I
You
don't
really
think I
need that? I'm gonna say, you don't need that, girl.
So I took a couple notes.
Now it's on.
Now it's
I do own a small business, Adventures of B&C. Some of you I actually recognize. When we did open for 6 months, it was a give back to the community, a small brick and mortar place. We actually went to Orange City. And there was reasons, not only personally, but in general with the process, why we didn't choose Deltona. I would have loved to have done it here. It would have been wonderful to do it here. But the offer of getting a crappy rundown building and saying, I'll put and invest the money into it. Now, mind you, I'm only gonna be there 6 months. And I did this in Orange City. It was you should have seen the inside when I got it, okay? Concrete, tile all busted up, dust everywhere, tile busted up all over the floor, no carpets, plumbing leaking. If I'm willing to invest into that building and make it to where I need it for what I wanna do, leave it like that when I leave, I wouldn't understand why someone like the city personnel would be tripping over that offer.
Sure.
You know, but there was no tripping over any offers. So, small little shop kind of fell in my lap in Orange City, and they were more than happy. Like, hey, if you want to come renovate it and leave it for me to rent it now. They sat empty for 3 years before I touched it. But we went in, we did the paint, we did the floor, we did everything needed. And what I found with working in their process, with their government system and process, was it was not as hard as Deltona's whatsoever. And I never tried to open brick and mortar here. I'm comparing to a mobile, okay? They made it near impossible with this mobile business, and I wanted to touch on what you said, because that was a big sticking point for me. My notes here, I'll go through them, was number one, outdated process. Hugely outdated process in Deltona. I opened in 2020, so when I went down there and I got my paperwork, literally photocopy paperwork, the first thing I noticed is they had categories for things like DVD rentals, but nothing like, entertainment businesses, which have been around for decades. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, I feel like I fit in this category, but you're telling me I have to go in the other category, right? The highest costing category, because you have failed to update with the times. Like, DVD rental is long gone, okay, but yet it's still on your list. You know, in the same kind of entertainment categories as which my business should fall, but my business is nowhere on there. I'm talking about bounce house rental has been around decades. This isn't like a new thing.
I gotta say something really quick, honey. I was a personal trainer and nutritional counselor. Guess what category I was assigned? Personal services. How does that set with somebody looking for, just let your mind go there. That was the only category I could have, personal services.
Yeah, so number one, definitely that. Update the process. I mentioned it in 2020, nothing in 2021. Just did my 2022 renewal, looks the same. Nothing's changed, nothing's up. I mean, how long does that absolutely take to sit down and say, you know what, let's make this make more sense, especially when, okay, so I'm a data person, right? So if I know that I'm writing these business tax receipts, okay, and I know in the applications what their businesses are, I have the data in front of me to create a very well-rounded list.
Sure.
Why? Because I already know what businesses are now running in our city. So, I mean, it's just little tiny process like that. It's like, why hasn't that happened?
Common sense though.
Other than the fact you can now generate more revenue off of me because you have to put me in this other category because I don't exist, you know? Touch base off of that is the senseless hoops to jump and the overregulation. For example, like with the food truck ordinance, when they wanted to say that, yeah, the state makes you do this, but we're gonna make you do it too. Well, that doesn't make any sense for a small business owner to pay twice. I would just not come to your city.
Yeah.
And there are cities that we don't service. We only service in, I mean, we could go to Daytona. Their rules are not something that we're interested in. So a city's ordinances does make a difference on whether business will come here and set up. The census hoops is what I was talking about. Okay, so again, mobile business, right? Not one client comes to my home. Period, zero, zilch. None of my equipment, none of my business stuff is in my home. I don't have a home office. All of my business stuff is stored. Okay, so none of it has anything to do with my home. So when I went down and I go need to inspect, I'm thinking inspect my trailer, check my wiring, make sure I got fire extinguisher in the truck, all the things that would make the community know my business is safe. Why? Because I would think that's the point of the inspection, not just to collect my money. But the fact is, it's just to collect my money. They never once took a look at my business. They wanted to come into my home, in which during that time we were in conflict, and I said, not a fucking chance. You're not coming into my home. What I found interesting was I was allowed to pick any home. They were like, well, just pick an address then. I said, so really you can expect my neighbor's house, my aunt's house. I mean, I could have picked somewhere in Lake Mary, they said. As long as we can come and look. I said, so it's really not about the safety of my business or ensuring that I'm following anything. Sure. It's a revenue stream. Mm-hmm. In fact, to this day, they never inspected my home.
I should have taken.
I gave them an address to inspect. I went to that address. I took the smoke alarm off the wall because it's battery operated, so it still works. And I brought the fire extinguisher outside into the garage and said they can look at it there. But again, not at my home. So what was the point of that process? It ensured nobody that my business was compliant and safe with anything.
It's a little worrisome. So.
And I brought this up. I've been bringing it up since it happened. I'm like, I don't understand why. When I went to Orange City, it was a whole different thing. Again, building versus thing, but it was just night and day. That the hoops you have to jump, the things you have to do, and it was just like, what am I getting for this? What is the community getting for me having to pay these fees?
If they're not really inspecting.
Because again, you're paying an inspection fee, you have to go get, the fire extinguisher inspected somewhere else and have that done. Again, which is great if it's in my truck and you're looking that it's in my truck where it belongs, should my trailer catch fire. But again, when I'm explaining to them that I understand that mobile falls under home base, why I don't understand, because it's not the same. You know, that you need to inspect these, but inspect what I'm using. You know, make it feel like the community's getting something for what we're doing. And then the question about big corp versus mom and pop, big incentives is the difference. Mom and pops don't get incentivized to come here. We get the hoops. So, you know, if I was a big corporation, I wanted to come here, hey, we'll give you a tax break to come here.
For the next 2
Well,
years.
you know what, you don't even have to do this, X, Y, Z to come here. But I'm willing to, hey, I may not be able to do this, or this like a big corporation, but I'm willing to make it look better when I leave it. Why would, I mean, mom and pop turnovers, okay, so we talked about that. Yeah, it's gonna happen. Mom and pops are more likely to turn over, but you know what? A building's not gonna look old and dilapidated during that time, because the next one that comes in, it's gonna be in good condition.
I think people fail to realize that mom and pops actually work hand in hand with bigger corporations, right? They kind of feed off of each other, and I spoke a little bit about this. There's a specific restaurant that I like to go to in Deltona. It's very mom and pops, right? But when I want to go out, unfortunately I have to cross the bridge, but I go to a different restaurant every so often. But I still go to this one because this is the one where I go, they know my name, they know my family. They usually know what I want to eat. When I ask for something like different, they're like, oh, something special going on, or are you trying to lose weight? You know, the funny stuff. The family feeling is there. But big, like a Cheesecake Factory, just throwing names out there, and a small little pizza joint or Italian restaurant, they feed off each other. They need that. As a matter of fact, I was telling the gentleman from yesterday's town hall, Domino's Pizza did a study on that, which I believe it's public because they use federal funds for it. And they went around and they bought gift cards from local mom and pop restaurants. And they actually made a commercial. You guys can YouTube the commercial.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Yes. And their revenue stream for the following quarter was out the roof. And the mom and pops that benefited of that. Well, I mean, I prefer public, but whatever. But the point is that they kind of feed off each other, so.
Right, and that was my last thing, is when a business comes here and kind of scopes things out, there's not the big community feel.
No.
And so
And
that's
what they
something
want.
that, you know, even knowing it was only gonna be a 6-month thing, it's something we still have to look at when we do like a setup for our community give backs and whatnot, is there gonna be that turnout that makes it worth what we're investing in?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
that's all I had.
I've said enough.
So, I think some of our process has been like backwards from the start. In fact, I use the term, we're a city becoming, because it wasn't really planned to be a city in the first place, so it seemed like everything goes arse backwards, in a sense.
We've
Like,
been here 41
yeah,
years, but
like
I'm still discounting.
We haven't quite figured out that a lot of these processes exist elsewhere, and they work successfully in communities, but yet, instead of looking to those communities and seeing like how they do it,
We reinvent.
yeah, we try to reinvent the wheel horribly, breaking our axles all the time, you know, ending up in potholes, horribly embarrassing situations. And just like what I'm seeing now, some of these lawyers for these developers who are talking about these new projects they want to bring in here, they're talking about these are going to be rentals that will be great for the people in the medical community and so forth. Well, it's not all here yet. And it's like, here we are, we're going backwards again. We're trying to bring in more people before we brought in the businesses that are gonna allow the people here to actually work here. It has to be balanced a lot better than it has been. And I think, you know, we're doing all these push here, push there, trying to get things done, but it still isn't balanced yet, and it's way out of whack so
Way
far.
too much housing and not near enough industry.
We're putting the cart before the horse.
Okay, so my name is Marilyn. I'm the owner of Amore Events Venue for anyone who wants to do an event.
What was your name?
Marilyn. And my venue is Amore Events Venue on Deltona Boulevard. So if anybody got a birthday, anniversary, wedding, we do it all. So our old city manager used to call me the competition. Mind you, my capacity is 120 people and this one is 500. I was like, wow, I'm competition for the center? Like, get out of here, you know. But that was old mindset, you know what I mean? It should be, oh, you're a new business, how can we help you, okay? Going back to the inspection, I went through hell to open that venue, okay? We jumped a lot of hoops. And it got to the point where I had to have the fire marshal come and tell her, no, we gotta sit in front of the computer so you can tell me what's the lock that you want on the door. Because I don't got money to keep buying the wrong lock, and every time you come, I got the wrong lock. So I need you to go on Google and show me the lock that you want, so I could put the right lock in, and I could actually open my doors. That was just one move.
That's
You talk about the
insane.
lock.
That's
to-
insane.
Orange City
Insane.
didn't even care if I had a doorknob.
I am considered an assembly, like a church, where a lot of people gather. Understandable, we got the emergency push bars, right? She was like, you gotta get an emergency push bar. Well, what kind of push bar? There's so many different ones.
Did you order the wrong one?
Of course I did.
Of course.
And it cost me only $600, you know.
Wow.
I have
So,
the same problem with the fire
These are not
extinguisher.
things that a small business could just swallow. You know, it's like, damn, $600 on the wrong lock. Now I gotta return it, get another one. I said, no, you need to show me the lock that you want on that door so I can get it down there and I can open my doors, okay? We literally had to redo the bathrooms because they were 30 years old. They were not handicapped. They were what I call one butt bathroom. One butt only fit, not even one butt fit in there. We had to make them handicap accessible, and they came out beautiful. But we went through hell with the contract that we had, but lesson learned.
The landlord did not.
My landlord was amazing, okay? He was like, that's your place, you do whatever you want, you knock down walls, you do whatever you want.
Good.
He was a good landlord, okay?
You just didn't pay for it.
He just didn't pay for it.
There you go.
And
My
they don't.
point.
Now,
They never do.
after this, I opened my venue 5 years ago. I just made 5 years in business, okay? Thank you. I open houses next month. The same day of the Puerto Rican party over here. I was like, damn, man, I could never win. But anyway, so I opened a second business in my piazza. I opened a tuxedo store.
Nice.
There are no tuxedo stores in the next 30 miles, right? Nothing. You would think that we would get good business. People didn't even know about us. And I am constantly on Facebook, as you know, because you follow me. I'm TikTok, Instagram, I am everywhere and everywhere. I wear all the hats. I'm marketing, I am contracts, decorator, piano, coordinator, everything. I do it all. And we are a mom and pop, just me and my husband. Nobody helps us, okay?
Let me ask you a quick question. So DeBerry, I noticed that they do this for Small Business Saturday. As long as you have a business tax receipt and you're up to date with the city, they have a form that you fill out. They do it yearly, and they promote for that week. They'll put up the business logo and the picture of the store.
That's only for DeBerry business.
DeBerry, yeah. So and they'll say, oh, please visit a small business located here.
Well, that's when I saw that electrical one on Saxon. I thought that's what it was gonna be, to help the small community where we could pay for advertising, because nothing in this world is free.
Of course.
It's okay. But if I could pay $150 or $200 for a month and my business gets advertised on there, at least people are seeing the name and they're like, oh, what is that name all about? You know what I mean? And it intrigues people.
Would
to
something
look
like
into
that
it.
though? Would that
That would help,
benefit?
yes, any little thing. If you put a sign on the road, they come to take it out, you lose your sign, or you gotta put a permit for like a week or something like that. So, okay, don't do that, cause I don't wanna lose my flags and stuff, so, okay. Now, I opened my tuxedo store. That opening went fine. The inspector came in because the occupancy did not change. It was still an office. I kept it as an office.
Sure.
I don't know why, because it's retail. It should have been changed to retail. But the fire marshals weren't smart enough to change occupancy. So they kept it as an office. And my inspection, he came in, he walked to the bathroom, turned on the faucet, and walked right back out. You passed. I was like, okay, that was easy. Wow, we got a win. So then I moved to another bigger spot because now I wanted to open a bridal shop. I wanted to be a one-stop shop, right? Wedding dresses, tuxedos, venue.
The venue, everything.
I got big dreams, you know?
Yes.
So we moved from that spot to the bigger spot. I opened my store and I closed my store and I still didn't have occupancy certificate. And my landlord was like, open the damn doors. If they give you a summons or anything, I'll pay for it. And I was like, but how do I not have a certificate of occupancy, right? So I operated my business without a certificate of occupancy because
Even though you passed.
I passed inspection, okay, everything was fine. But there's a karate school there. So that's considered an assembly, like my venue, because there's a lot of people. It had to be changed to a retail store, okay? But the fire department didn't know how to do it. And we got a new fire marshal in there now. So she didn't know how to do it. So it was never done. But they wanted me to pay for a permit that I did not need in order to change the occupancy. And I said, why would I pay for a permit that nothing needs to be done? All I did was paint. I didn't change any structure, no walls, nothing. No, nothing. We didn't do anything, just paint. They wanted me to pay $135 to change it from assembly to retail. I said, hell no, I paid $135 for a permit that I do not need. So my bridal shop lasted 1.5 years. I operated, my landlord was like, open the doors, if anything happens, I'll deal with it. I had to have my landlord on the phone with the fire department. And he's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would we have to pay for a permit that we do not need if nothing's being done? Right. You pull a permit when you're gonna knock down a wall or you're gonna change a structure. But if you're not changing anything, you're painting, I need to pull a permit? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So that didn't make any sense. So hoops and hoops and hoops. And I'm like, I'm a small mom, truly mom and pop's business. And they just make you go through all this shit. And I did my homework before I opened my venue. I found the space, went to City Hall, and said, what are the requirements for this space? How much parking do I need? Do I need to pull permits? You know, if I'm gonna do this or that or whatever.
We have a lot of parking there, so I hope they didn't say.
They know me in City Hall by first name, let me tell you. Okay, I walk in there, people are like, Marilyn comes again, what she want now, you know. But I lived in there because I asked so many questions, because I didn't want to sign a lease and be on the hook for a lease that I couldn't open. So the city was like, oh, we'll help you every step of the way. Yeah, you helped me with headaches every step of the way. But I just was very persistent and kept on asking the right questions to make sure I was doing it right so I can open. But that lock, that cost me a lot of money to just be able to put a lock and to be able to open my doors, you know.
Question, are you still in business?
Yes, I am, ma'am. I just made 5 years.
Oh, God bless you.
Perseverance pays.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone.
He has a louder voice.
Well, I don't want to yell tonight, so I'll use the mic. So my name is Troy, and I can echo a lot of what you all said. When I first moved to Deltona, I did own a business. It was another home office type situation. It's t-shirt screen printing and that kind of stuff. And so our production facility was still where I came from. I wanted to move to Deltona, but that was a long story. It didn't happen for a lot of reasons, not just because of Deltona, but yeah, the same thing. You know, I had to have a fire inspection for everything in my house because I said I was going to work out of my house. And so I think the biggest truth is definitely the concept of we just didn't get anything updated. We still have these antiquated concepts, ideas, things of that nature. It took me 3 trips to City Hall to figure out what category to put me in. I mean, the clothing business, again, nothing new. We've been doing clothing for 1,000 years, people, and they couldn't figure out what category to put me in. It wasn't that, I don't understand why.
Personal services.
And so, you know.
Other is where you're at, I mean.
I don't remember where I'm at now, but then I closed that business for, again, other reasons, not Deltona. They're still sending me renewal notices, even though I've written on it, I'm no longer in business. I don't know how else to inform the city that I don't have a business anymore for that. I still get renewals, and they try to charge me like $500 for late fees. Well, I'm not paying it because I'm not in business, so there's just a lot of...
Well, I can answer that question. So when you close a business, learn this with the bridal shop. When you close a business, you close it with the state. Because you know, we pay taxes.
Take your name off.
They send you a certificate that you're closed. And then you give that to Deltona to officially close the business so they don't send you any more tax.
They've gotten 3 copies of that now.
Yeah.
I'm done sending it. You get 3 copies and I'm done.
Three strikes and you're out.
So I think a lot of what was said, is the same. I would also ask, incentives are technically available for any business that opens in Deltona. However, just as a quick example, the biggest ones that we'd be interested in require 2 things that I don't think a mom and pop is likely to get. One of which is you have to have a minimum of 10 full-time employees. Second of which is you have to be in an industry that has 115% of the average income of Volusia County. So obviously our incentives, although technically available to any business that opens, are certainly geared toward a very specific business. And that leads to the concept that we have a development economic department, not easily found from our homepage website, by the way. It's a nice website, it's got a lot of information on it, but getting to it, if you don't know DeltonaMeansBusiness.com is a site, you don't get to it very easily. So hidden in a way. But our development economic department generally responds to the will of the commission as to this is what we want you to do. And we know for the last few years it's been med tech industry. So I think one possible solution, as I like to bring solutions if I have an issue, is if the commission decides to redirect their energies to small businesses, that would allow that department to focus on that thing rather than focusing on bringing in these big box stores that we're getting over and over. Because that, again, has been the direction given to them to follow. So I'll just defend them for a hot second saying that they're doing what they were told to do. That can be changed. That can be changed. We've heard for years, no lunch crowd, no infrastructure, no city sewer. You'll notice, I think most of us might know that most things happening on Howland in our corridor are not even on city water and sewer. So, but I would ask, if our economic development office is continuing to tell us that we don't have a lunch crowd, have they ever told us what the hell a lunch crowd is? What does it mean? And if we know what that means, are we not getting a goal to that? If we know it means we need X number of this and Y number of that, why has that not been our goal then, to achieve that lunch crowd? We just keep saying we don't have it and we kind of leave it at that. So I think there's a lack of definition of what our goal should be if it is to actually get a restaurant or whatever. And just my random notes and thoughts. I think as we've heard some of the issues, people dealing with City Hall in different ways. Personally, I've never had a problem with them. I've never had an issue other than they're not knowing what category I'm in, things like that. I think in general, though, based on what I hear recurring from people's complaints across time, we might want to consider as a city taking on a better training protocol. And jokingly, but only half jokingly, I often say maybe we should just hire Chick-fil-A to come and train our people, because if you ever go to Chick-fil-A, they are the nicest, most enthusiastic and helpful people, and I think a city can learn a lot from that. And I don't know if it's because we have a lot of turnover or whatever the case may be, but it definitely feels like people that are at the counter don't have the information they need to do their job. And that's not their failing, that's management failing, in my opinion. So I think we can look at a better training mechanism to help make sure that our employees know what they should be doing and how to ask those questions. And I think I'll just leave it at that, but I think we have a lot of opportunity, obviously, in Deltona to redefine where we want our businesses to go. Last point, sorry. I do operate a nonprofit here in the city, and that's the newest thing. And we are currently looking for a brick and mortar. I could have had 3 of them outside of Deltona, but I refuse to do that. Obviously, we are Deltona strong. We need to be in Deltona one way or another. But to the point I think you've made several times as well, we have a stark lack of appropriate business offices in the city. And I don't want to be in a public shopping center or any kind of I don't want to be in a storefront shopping center because we're not retail and that's not the appropriate place for my nonprofit. But anything else I've looked at is an ex-office building medical building that's been sitting vacant for how many years. The parking lot looks like garbage. Like, we don't have business office suites available in Deltona that are appropriate. So I think that could be a focus that we could use to bring people in and let the home businesses that are going to be cropping up all over the place because of COVID and that fallout, they could have an opportunity to move into an office, and that could be another area of focus.
So let me bring it up because we're getting close to the end of time. So and then I'll give you guys some time to speak. you're obviously a data guy, I know Brandy's a data person. So we have Amazon, right? Because I keep asking this question, because I keep hearing the same comments about we don't have the lunch crowd. Somebody, I'm not gonna say who, because we're not here to attack people, but I hear another comment that we don't get higher paying jobs because our residents don't make enough money. Makes absolutely no sense to me.
You have higher paying jobs, you make more money.
So what, to get to your point, what is that lunch crowd? Because Amazon has how many employees?
And hospitals too.
I mean, we have Halifax right there, we have that Advent Health, the emergency center that's right there as well. So we do have a crowd, but because we don't have
The data.
the place where they go to eat, they're gonna go to Orange City.
That's right, they do.
Restaurants
So-
on Saxon Boulevard, they've got it planned perfectly.
So that's my question, I mean, how many employees does Amazon have?
Are they allowed to leave?
Well, that's another thing, I mean, I see them in and out all the time, but you have Halifax here too, they have a lot of employees there, but again, that's,
The area by the movie theater, isn't that was supposed to be our downtown?
I can't answer that. I don't know. I will tell you that the biggest issue I had when I ran the 2 times was that we focused a lot of our energy on regionalism, right? Every time I asked why are we not trying to bring better jobs to Deltona or businesses, not just restaurants, right? But I had this crazy concept idea, right? Because Deltona does have a lot of home-based businesses. Why can't we attract a developer that can bulldoze one of these plazas that's just been there rotting away and open executive suites, and people can actually rent offices, right? Just offices. And I was told because we supply the workers for Sanford, for Daytona Beach. I'm sorry, I live in Deltona. I don't care what Sanford does. I don't care what Daytona Beach does unless it's going to affect our residents, right? But to your point, I think we really do need to figure out what is this number, this magical number that we need to get to, because I think we're there. So somewhere somebody is dropping the ball, and then I do think that a lot of our things are a little antiquated, right? I will give it to staff because I've seen them. I've seen our staff in those difficult situations where it really is not their fault, right? They're given certain procedures. They're told this is what we can do, and then they're there to defend, pretty much to do what they can. And I feel really bad. It's, for example, I got elected. It's like, there you go, do what you have to do. And that was my conversation this morning with our interim city manager, or actually with our city attorney. Hey, can we do something about getting policies and procedures in place where we have some type of training for anyone that gets elected, not just myself, where we can go through the number one thing, sunshine laws, and then Robert's rules, even though, whatever, and then how to run meetings, because I can't be the only one that is trying to learn on his own, right? On top of that, trying to talk to all the residents, to try to have all these town halls. And then I look at our staff, and they have to be going through, I had 3 calls this past week. Specifically, a resident had an issue where for 7 months, their permit, 2 permits, one said it was voided, the other one said pending. One was for a pool, the other one was for a fence. He sent me the emails, look, they're both approved. So I went down to the permitting department, and I'm like, can I just get information on this? I can't instruct them what to do. And they're like, they haven't been closed, let me close them out really quick. It took them 5 minutes, and I asked, I'm like, why did it take 7 months? Just out of curiosity. He's like, Mr. Vila, it's just that some of the systems, there's this issue going on, they're trying to fix it. So I think at times also, we need to do a better job at communicating with our residents, right? It's not necessarily staff, maybe as a whole, we need to do better communicating that information, so.
We're actually here to observe.
Okay.
I could mirror some of the things that they said that I've experienced, but I would be repeating the same thing.
Okay.
So thank you. I think she wanted to say something else.
I talk to
She
you
said
all the time.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming here, right? This was a special forum because it's for small business. I know I had several other businesses that committed to coming, and as a small business owner, things come up, right? Mr. Pesci, you want to say something?
Yeah. After listening, it made me think. I used to live over in Seminole County. They had a small business incubator set up. Where if I wanted to start my business, I had experienced people to go to that can help me. They could tell me what forms I needed. They could tell me
So
what.
that is available, it's through SCORE.
Yeah.
SCORE does that, they'll assign you a mentor and they'll walk you through everything you need to do, you can contact, it's all free.
And UCF
And
has
then apply it to the city.
Yes.
Actually,
yeah.
Deltona
It's
actually
city
originally
specific. They asked
were
me
gonna do- was gonna
specifically,
do
you
that.
know, am I setting up in specific counties, cities, they went through the whole thing, SCORE
I
was
think they have
amazing.
something like that where
There's
you
one
can go
in,
to
in
City
the
Hall
airport in Daytona Beach, the
and have
incubator
it
over there.
corrected.
Okay. I'll try to get us some information on that, because I think, I didn't even know about that.
Talk to Jared.
Yeah, SCORE is amazing, but I
They
just.
actually brought
I
it
don't
up
think the
twice.
city really
Okay.
They
partners
got
with
blown
them.
out of the water about it.
Okay.
What's that?
And I had a meeting with a local realtor the other day, and that was the exact same thing we were talking about. I said, I would like to start a class, Business 101. Where do I start? A lot of people want to start a business, they just don't know how. Or what's the first thing they need to do, or what's the first paper they need to get to become a business. People are not educated. And he said, you know what? That's called an incubator. And I was like, oh, well, I know there's one in Daytona. And he said, we should have one here in Deltona. And I was like, well, I would be more than happy to educate people, because the venue's not my first entrepreneurship, and it won't be my last.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions before we go?
They have a how-to festival that would be
No.
lovely. Yeah.
Jim, I'll give you the last
They'd love to have
question.
that.
Let's talk about that. I'm the one without the business. Okay. I've always felt that when we went down to the building department, it was a gotcha game, not a help you game. I had a remodel done in my kitchen, the electrician came, the inspector came in, took one look, he said, you fell, and walked out the door, and I'm supposed to tell my contractor that we failed, and we had no idea what failed us. I opened up a small business, come to think of it, called the Deltona Community Gardens. My house had to be inspected
For the
for the
gardens?
community gardens.
Yep, because it's just a sham, it's a revenue stream, it's a sham.
Okay, but
And you pay
the
75.
whole thing is, when I did go down to City Hall, I had to go through those hoops. Why can't I go down and turn around and say, okay, I'm filing an application, have that clerk be assigned to that application to do everything they can to make it a success instead of attack it? Why should she have to go through and play a guessing game on a doorknob? I had to play a guessing game on an outlet that was 6 inches off. When we can just turn around and have the city tell us, this is what we want, this is what we need, and I will be the person you come to help you get it done, instead of playing game after game.
Okay. So thank you guys for coming out tonight. These are all great suggestions. Again, these specifically, I think we can present not only to our interim city manager, but also to, I believe it's Ron and maybe even Jerry. So thank you for coming out, and I hope you guys have a good night. Try to enjoy your Christmas holiday, and try to forget about the city while we enjoy those holidays, right? So when we start the new year,
We love the city, that's why we're here.
thank you guys. Have a good night.